And Lulu Garcia Navarro is out front, of course, a podcast host as well as with the New York Times, and the former chief of staff to Vice President Mike Pence, Marc Short. So I appreciate both of you. And Lulu, you know, I think anybody watching this who's been following Democrats' struggle to find a voice or to find someone with a voice, you think of, okay, Cory Booker, you know, staying up all night and not going to the bathroom and making his speech. And these moments that Democrats have tried to cling on to, that has been met with a lot of frustration about Gavin Newsom, right, who's done podcasts and been interviewing people like Steve Bannon and things like that. So I just thought it was interesting. There was George Takei, I thought, summarized the sentiment very well on social media. He put on a post saying, "I like this Gavin more than podcast Gavin." And that was when someone on the right was complaining about the Mexican flags at this rally and saying, "I wish there were American flags." Gavin Newsom replies, "Oh, you mean like this?" and posted multiple pictures of January 6th and people at the riot bringing the American flag. So that post by George Takei, I thought, sort of summed up the attitude that feels to be out there among Democrats right now. They want that Gavin Newsom. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they do. I think there has been a real hunger among the Democratic base for someone to stand up to Donald Trump and to land some punches, frankly, because what we've seen is a lot of incompetence on the side of Democrats, a lot of disarray, as we always talk about, Dems in disarray. They have been disarrayed since the election. And so Gavin Newsom looking very presidential with a flag of California behind him. We know that he has ambitions for 2028. And this, in a way, is his moment. He is articulating something that many Democrats and many Democratic voters feel. They want to take the fight to Donald Trump, and they want someone to talk to him in the way that he talks to them. And so this might be the moment where Gavin Newsom becomes the leader of the Democratic Party, at least for now.
Marc, is that how you see it? And because it is a stark contrast to the path taken by Governor Newsom until this moment of crisis for his state, right? He had been going another way, reaching out to people on the right to try to understand them better via his podcast.
Well, I do agree with Lulu. I think the reality is that the Democrat Party has been struggling to find a leader right now. They clearly seem to be in disarray as to what their message is. I think Gavin Newsom is a very talented politician. I think on the substance, there's a lot in the record of California where the state is in fiscal disarray. You've had a lot of businesses and job creators flee the state. And I think, you know, he's choosing to more or less side with people who broke the law to get into the United States, which I'm not sure is going to help him long term. But I think if he wants to be the nominee in 28, you first have to win a primary. And he is definitely, you know, standing out. And I would think that for Democrats to win a primary, if you have a foil as Donald Trump, that's probably a pretty good formula for him. So I do agree that he's a gifted politician. I think that this is right. But, you know, as you said, Aaron, yourself, you know, it's not as if he doesn't participate in the theatrics himself that he condemns Trump for when his first podcast hosts were Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk.
Right. But, you know, I'm also curious, Marc, you know, now he's out there responding, right? In a sense, saying there is no post that's going to come out there that I am not going to come and punch back if I want to, right? It's a shift, right? I'm just saying, for example, we were going through the thing that he did about the flags, but then this post to Sarah Huckabee Sanders, right? So she claimed that Arkansas values order over California, quote unquote, chaos. So Governor Newsom responds. He comes out, Marc. He says, your homicide rate is literally double California's. Right? Just steps right in on it. I mean, is that going to work? Right? There's going to be, it seems at least right now, there's nobody that he's not going to be afraid to come out and punch.
Look, I mean, I think it's obviously worked for President Trump. President Trump has been very good at trolling the left. I think the question is, does the formula work the similar way on the left? And I think there's no doubt. You're right. That is what he's doing, and he's probably doing it pretty effectively and probably gets a lot of liberal support for doing so.
Lulu?
Yeah, I think this is a dangerous moment, though, for Democrats because, you know, immigration is an issue that is very complicated, and it is being distilled down to its most brutal sort of essence, which is on the one side, you have Republicans and Donald Trump saying immigrants are bad, immigrants are evil. And then on the other side, what you're seeing with some of the base among Democrats is this idea that, we're going to protect all immigrants in this country, no matter how they came here. And so, this is not good for Democrats. And it might transpire if these protests actually metastasize. We saw this in 2020. We saw the whole movement, after the killing of George Floyd. There was initial sympathy, and then there was, quite frankly, a real pushback into what happened. And so, Gavin Newsom might be seen now as a hero for Democrats, but depending on the way that this goes, he eventually could be condemned as an enabler of illegal immigration, which is something that the majority of Americans, at least at this moment, condemn.
All right. Thank you both very much.